What's up everybody, my name is Brock Bailey. Today I want to go over how to shoot slow motion on the GH5 and the GH5s. Let's get into it. Shooting super slow motion on the GH5 and the GH5s is a little bit different than the other camera lines. We gotta set up a certain setting inside the camera for us to shoot that super slow motion footage that we all love. For us to shoot slow motion on the GH5 and the GH5s, we gotta go into our settings and choose VFR. VFR is variable frame rate. In the GH5 and the GH5s, the VFR or variable frame rate allows us to shoot up to 180 frames a second or as low as 2 frames a second. The only catch is that in the Panasonic GH5 and the GH5s is that 120 frames a second is only available in 1080p, not 4K. 1080p at 120 frames a second is probably the best setting. It's not too noisy in the shadows and it overall looks very smooth right out of camera. 180 frames a second, it's a little bit noisy in the shadows, so you have to have exposure perfectly set on that. So I don't really mess with 180. I think 120 frames a second is perfect. So today I want to go over how to set up slow motion for the GH5 and the GH5s inside the camera. Let's get into it. All right guys, so let's dive into the menus. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to the record quality option right here. Click on that and we got to see what is VFR available. So we'll scroll down, we'll see VFR available for 4K. But it only goes up to 60 frames a second. It doesn't go past that. So we can't use 180 or 120 frames a second in 4K because it's not ready to do that yet. So now what we want to do is we want to scroll down till we find 1080. And as you can see right here, 1080, it's VFR available. So let's just click on that. So we'll get out of there and we'll go up one menu, go over to variable frame rate. Right now it is off, so we want to be able to turn that on. So let's turn it on. And as you can see, we have 180 frames a second as the highest and 2 as the lowest. 2 is what you'd want to do if you're going to shoot some time lapses or anything or any cool shots of the city like that. And 180 frames is a very good option, but I feel it's too noisy in my opinion. I think 120 frames a second is just right. So that's what I use all the time, is 120 frames a second. So we want to select that. And there you go. Variable frame rate is now on. So anytime you want to record, you hit record and it shoots 120 frames a second and you're ready to go. So to make this easier on me and everybody else, I'm going to give you guys a little tip that I do. So over here on the front of my camera, you can see this button right here. I have VFR customized to this button. So anytime I want to shoot in 120 frames a second, I hit that button, I turn it on and I'm ready to go, and then I can turn it off whenever I don't want to use 120 frames a second. So that's a good tip for you guys. So to do this, you want to hold this button until you're able to bring up the custom menu settings, and then you put variable frame rate as your custom setting for this button. And anytime you put this button into use, you're able to shoot in VFR. It's very handy. You're able to go back from 120 frames a second back to 24 frames a second whenever you guys want. So that's a good little tip for you guys there. Other things you got to be aware of is over here, you'll find in your 1080 settings that VFR sometimes isn't available, like this one. It's only HLG available. It's not VFR available yet because this is a 10-bit option. VFR does not work with 10-bit footage, it's only 8-bit footage, so that kind of sucks. But other than that, it works in the 8-bit just fine. I've never had a problem with anything like that. And another tip for you guys is to always have your exposure perfect. If you expose too high, it will be a little bit noisy, and if you expose too low, it would be too dark, obviously. So you want to get it right in the middle of your meter, have it exposed perfectly, and start shooting, because I feel like that's when it works the best. That's when the colors look good. That's when everything else on the camera looks great. It's buttery smooth, and there's no problems. So that's how you shoot super slow motion in the GH5 and the GH5s. As you can see, the 120 frames a second look awesome inside the camera. Also, if you want, you can email me below if you have any further questions regarding settings in the GH5 or the GH5s, or anything else you would like to know about cameras in general or weddings. That's gonna do it for this video. We'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, I'll see you guys soon. Peace!